What's up everybody? Today I thought we'd bring you membawakan segmen baru kepada show-show kita, and one of the things that we want to look at is this will be a react video to Ahmaud Arbery killing from Andrew Schulz and Akaash Singh. Now the whole idea behind this is that sometimes it's nice to join in the conversation, and I feel like I can react to quite a bit of Andrew Schulz and Akaash whenever they have their podcast and talk about things, because the thing about they are two comedians. If for those who don't know, Akaash Singh and Andrew Schulz are two comedians who live in New York and has done tours worldwide. I'm not too sure about Akaash Singh, but definitely Andrew Schulz, because that's the first time I saw him in a small little hotel in Copenhagen back in I think it was 2017. He saw me, definitely, and I think we exchanged one or two words, but I didn't become a fanboy just that because I was really high on mushrooms. But this is me reacting to this, and I'm going to be bringing a little bit more perspective with regards to, I don't know, things that I know about Islam, and how that less the similarities between the people as we think. Reaction that you would get from a perspective of a Malaysian Muslim who's been, I don't know, living abroad for the last, I don't know, 12 years or so, right? And here we go, without further ado, this is me reacting to Ahmaud Arbery killing, which has happened recently, from Andrew Schulz and Akaash Singh. Let's go.
As a black person, we have to just like go on every day. It's still in our mind.
And he was jogging?
We have to like just imagine that this shit isn't happening just so we can live. Because imagine you just live in fear every single day.
Yeah.
So it's like it's in our mind. I know this can happen. I know there could be a weird traffic stop where something just gets taken out of hand. Boom.
You know, people were getting offended during like the World War III was trending when black Twitter just had a bunch of funny memes about World War III, and a lot of people were like, "How can you make jokes about something like this?" Maybe it's like, yeah, man, we have to learn to cope. We've just been having to learn to cope. So if some shit pops off that could be crazy, we're gonna make jokes about it. At least now it's all of us in this danger together.
Yeah. So again, the tragedy and comedy being two halves of a coin, it's a real thing. In order for you to elevate yourself from diving too deep into depression, one thing that will help you sort of cope is by laughing about it. And laughter is the best medicine after all, and sometimes the funniest bits are always the most tragic ones.
It is interesting. You just have to like go on with your day about it. It's kind of like you know, like you hear about like a shark attack at your local beach, you know, and you're like, now the chances of that happening to me are very small. That being said, when you're in the water and you see a little splash, or you feel something rub up against your leg, you're like, yo. So you probably, I assume, constantly thinking, yo, this could happen. It could be going down. And then maybe it doesn't happen for 6 months. You're like, all right, it's cool to be out there. We're good. Everything's fine. I'm surfing. I'm swimming again. And then boom, all of a sudden, another shark.
Well, this is the thing though, okay? I'm Malaysian, so this tends to happen quite often, that you see sharks while you're, I don't know, snorkeling or something. But the beauty about sharks in Malaysia is that they're all vegetarians. Like black teeth reef sharks, and they are they're the coolest things. And usually when you want to warn someone that you see a shark or something, they're usually gone by it anyway, so they're really excellent swimmers, so forget about seeing them second time. Like the chances are really low, actually, to be honest, unless if you're facing like great whites or things of that caliber.
I think this is practice. I could be wrong, but like say if you're a cop, if you live in Queens and become a cop, they start you in a place that you're not familiar with.
Why don't they start you in the place you are?
I think they're afraid of corruption. Because if you're cool with your homies, if they're doing some shit, it's like, yo,
neighborhood policing is effective, though. Isn't that just a...
No, but real quick. You know what else is corruption? Just shooting the black people.
True, yeah.
So it's like, wouldn't you rather... I'd rather you not give a ticket to your homeboy than you just shoot some random dude.
Yeah.
I think the cops would prefer that, too.
And that's why some of the best guys, like when I was in law enforcement, I would get cool with, like I worked in the courts, I would get cool with the prisoners. Like I would know them on a first name basis, so I don't speak to them like calling their number or just calling their last name, like it was so informal. It's like I would get cool with these guys.
My
so
God.
It's like now they're less on edge, I'm less on edge, because we're all like, yeah, we already know what we're here for, but we cool.
That reminds me of something. What he said was really remarkable, because that's the exact opposite of what happened in Soviet Union, basically. If you read the horrible accounts from Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who is this one of the Russian ex-officers who got captured in Germany, but then because they've been captured from Germany for a bit too long. When they return back to Russia, the motherland or fatherland, Stalin deemed them as brainwashed by the Germans. They weren't a lot of basic humane things. Now that's like the worst. If you think that something that happens in Nazi Germany is bad, wait till you read about those types of things that's happening in Soviet Union on the ideology and the basis of socialism. Not socialism, communism basically. So the idea that, you know, people would lie, use the people to turn against their people. So it's in a realm where if you're in prison, they don't have enough prison guards. The people with the most mafia-like, gangster-like, no moral compass, they become the prison guards of that place. And so you can imagine if you have a child born at that time and they grow up in a place without any moral compass, everything you see is either just a bunch of theft, rape, killings. If you grow up with just these three, then you think that there is no God. That's the whole idea here, that one of the worst things that they did, relating back to the story, is that to punish the prisoners, they reduced them to a point where they just called them by numbers. They don't even have an identity anymore. They stripped away their names and their honor and their pride. That's like the worst thing. And apparently in that specific story, one of the bottom lines that Alexander Solzhenitsyn said, the only cure against this tyranny is your very strong belief, or, you know, for a purpose of life, which is for a lot of people, the religious people. There's one thing bigger that they fear than the people themselves, or that tyranny themselves, which is called God, because God knows everything.
Some people liked it. They enjoyed it. You just have to find a way to make the job enjoyable.
Is there a power piece to it? Some of the cops have the power of over someone else. Like, I'm gonna go get this guy.
Yeah.
And to that end, I would.
Yeah, this is like not exactly, but this is like the Stanford experiment, where they just took normal people, segregate them randomly into two groups, and one is the officer and one is the prisoners, and then you find that the prisoners or the people who became the officers enjoy that superiority. So once they enjoy that superiority, they start treating the other people who are not criminals anyway as if they're subordinates, like they're lower class. The Stanford experiment is roughly an extension or a very weak, diminished attempt to recreate the Soviet Union, which is basically, like I said, the people who are gangsters and rapists and killers become the people who have superiority. It's really horrible.
And then those are the ones that are usually the ones.
What do you mean?
They want to flex that power.
Exactly what I mean. So we can be reduced to. It will be a dishonor to call ourselves inhumane people, animals, because at least animals, in some sense, they obey the laws of nature. They're still within the bounds of the ethics of God, whereas human beings have the capability to completely reject it and act way beyond their means to something more demonic. As opposed to something more animalistic, if that makes sense.
Any chance they get.
Sit down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
And these are guys.
Just talk down on them. It's like, come on, son. And then those are the assholes you hate to work with because they're always getting into a fight, and then you have to jump into the fight. Oh yeah, they get paid way more than New York City cops.
Because you get paid based on the tax revenue of the place you're policing. Right? It's similar to schools. Like, there could be a public school in Beverly Hills that's fly because it's based on the taxes that are in Beverly Hills.
So this is the interesting thing is I'm living in Wyoming. There's barely any cops here. And the reason why that is because there's barely any crime here. And the reason why that is because there's barely any people here.
Right? And the tax bracket's going to be crazy high. So the Suffolk County cops, I think, start at some absurd salary. And I think within a few years, you're going to be making $75,000. And I think that you're making six figures as a cop. And keep in mind, if you're there, if you do, 20 years, you get full pension?
Yeah, 20 years, you could retire.
What does it say, Mark?
Suffolk County is $50,000 annually, increasing incrementally, and you can make $112,000 after a few years.
I mean, to break up keg parties, bruh?
Yeah.
Suffolk County's Long Island, for anybody who's listening right now. So you're breaking up keg parties. You're going to, I think Suffolk might be the Hamptons. You're literally going to rich people's houses and saying, hey, can you turn down the music a little bit? Now, of course, there's going to be some gang shit out there in Long Island. I'm not saying it's soft, but compared to work in East New York.
Yeah.
Different.
So now the poorest neighborhoods are going to have the worst paid cops.
Yep.
Yeah.
And low key, you want to talk about corruption? If you give me power and you don't pay me, I'm going to find a way to get the money.
Yeah.
That's the shitty thing. It's like, they say that about New Orleans got the most corrupt.
Yeah, but that's also the problem with capitalism, isn't it? The idea that the person who has the intellect and knows exactly what to do, how to gain it, how to manipulate it, this is happening all the time. If you're in the academic line, The top 10% of the professors write 50% of the publication. This is a Pareto distribution. It's an argument that's used by the likes of Jordan Peterson. And it is true. There's always some people, small percentage of people who gain a lot of the wealth. Just look at Jeff Bezos. Just look at how Tesla is just controlling everything. Look at how Microsoft, Bill Gates. Clearly, the same similarities between them is that they're all men. No, that's not the point. But it is quite a coincidence that all the trillion-dollar companies are run by men. Only the people who realize how noble it is to become a doctor and save lives just for the sake of saving their lives instead of doing it for monetary benefit. That's basically the main issue with humanism and the age of scientism and human progress, because everything's predicated upon the idea that you can do good if there's incentive for it. Sometimes people are clouded by the incentives, especially if they grew up without having any moral compass. A lot of cases people still do really well in that front, but you'll do much better if you are a little bit evil. I mean, which is all what humans are.
You begging them to be corrupt.
I know one way that cops would make extra money is if you get a collar, if you lock somebody up, because you have to stay with that person. So it's like you have to fill out the papers with that person. You have to wait till they go into the courts and all that stuff. So it's like that's incentive to lock somebody up. So now you're just looking for any little thing.
Yeah.
I need some money. My girl asked for a bracelet.
Boom.
Yeah.
So
we locking people up.
So we pregnant again.
And
I got a lot of people up.
Yeah.
See? Capitalism.
I think that would happen regardless of how you pay costs. People are going to try to game the system and make more money. But if you're
less
paying them
incentivized
nothing,
if you pay them more.
Bro, and I think if you told rich communities like, yo, Suffolk, we're going to actually spread this money all throughout New York, I think they'd be like, nah, fuck that. We work hard, we whatever. So I don't know necessarily what the solution is.
Sometimes the solution is not that easy because humans have to make that decision. It's a bit sad. I don't understand sometimes when people claim to have this idea that humans are innately moral. We have this, we don't need some textual evidence, just like how we religious Muslims do, or Christians for that matter, or any religious text. If you do not have a textual basis, take the example from Solzhenitsyn again. If your children that's just born into a prison and you've never seen the light of day of good deeds and people giving charity and just generally being kind, then all you think about is like evil is king here, the devil is the king. So that happens with abortion. That's like, I think, one of the discussions that Catholics and liberals will always be at their throats at each other for, but I don't think it's up to the humans. So he's right. There's no. I don't know what's the solution to that either.
We pay cops.
Okay, hats off to them taking off their shoes in this podcast. It's just because I don't know if is that an Italian. I think that's an Italian tradition as well, isn't it? Only Europeans, Americans are the ones who let you go around the house with like shoes. It's like, come on, man! Like, really, you're gonna get your house all dirty. Ugh. If you don't wear shoes at your home, smash subscribe and make sure to hit that notification button.
Yeah,
that's true.
Because it's really not up to black people to convince white people not to hate black people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not your job to do it.
It's not your job. What I would say to that kid is you don't forgive him for him. You forgive him for you. And
yes.
That's
the Jesus way of looking at it.
And it's up. You got to do this, but you're not doing this for him. I'll try to keep that in mind. You're doing this for you. Daryl Davis, he's doing that for him and his people. He's not doing it for the white people. He doesn't think he's doing them a favor. Now, should he have to? No, absolutely not. White people should just not and shoot black people for jogging. I get that.
Yeah.
But if you can find the space mentally and emotionally to be like, nah, I'm not doing this for them. I'm going to reach them for me and my people so we can all exist better in this world. Then that's how you can do it.
It's funny that he mentioned this because this goes along the lines of this touches an Islamic perspective so very well. Whenever you hear about Sharia law or anything that's related to Islam, then you think like, cutting people's hands off, that's barbaric. That's the only thing that's last in your brain. Your availability heuristic basically just picks up on that, thinking that that's the thing that I will think about when I think about Muslims, is that they really love to cut people's hands if they steal stuff. I mean, I've done that a couple of times, but that doesn't disprove my point. No, of course not. Of course I didn't cut someone's hand. If that were to happen in Malaysia, the question that you first have to ask is, why did that guy steal in the first place? Because he's poor. Why is that guy poor? Why is the system at place, the leaders of that system, is not able to provide for the poorest, the weakest link of the community? So look at Saudi Arabia, man. I mean, you might think that it's a horrible thing, but look at the amount of crime rates that you see in Saudi Arabia. Zilch. It's really low as compared to what? And why not? Like, I would be afraid if you want to cut off my hands, obviously. It's the same way as how you try to punish children. Asians tend to use more physical forces on their children because the norm is still there, that the culture is still permits it. Whereas if you're in the US, that joke from Russell Peters was pretty good, where he says like, go to your room. That's the only thing that you can do. Go, ground someone. Like, what will that actually teach you? Even when you grow old, if I kill someone, then they'll just ground me for the rest of my life. Is that really torture enough as compared to like you're gonna die if you do something really bad? I'm not trying to promote that in any sense, but it is an effective system where you don't have to build and spend millions and billions of dollars of taxpayers' money just to build an institution, basically a hostel. Like imagine if you steal something and then that's it, you're grounded. Go to that hostel and have shitty food the rest of your life. Like, okay, fine. Like, it's not fearful for some people. So yes, the idea is this, that if you cut someone's hands off, first you need to see, do you really want to go through with it? And most of the time when you start questioning these things like, why did he do it? Was he poor? Was he abused? And then often enough, if you can bring him to the point where he confesses, you know what, my family just got divorced, I just want some attention, I'm so sorry, please, I won't do it again, you forgive him. And that's the main idea that people don't understand about Islam, is that forgiveness is much more important than actually taking revenge.
Because you can't ask a hateful person to come meet you
halfway.
As fucked up as it is, you have to go to them, and you have to be the even bigger person. Mm-hmm. So, and that's why
exactly. And by forgiving someone for stealing, and even though you have the right to cut their hands off, most likely you would be given the choice, would you want to go through with it? It's like cheating death, isn't it? So if you cheat death, and then within this cheating of death, the person who has a gun pointed at your head says, hey man, don't you ever steal again. And then suddenly your life just changed because suddenly you have a new meaning to life. You just cheated death. Well, that's it, guys. I guess that's enough of reacting to Andrew Schulz and Akaash Singh. If you like that kind of content, smash subscribe, hit notification bell, and discuss in the comments if you think that Islam has actually covered most of these bases. Has it not? Are these things right for Malaysians, or are they not? And is this actually funny? Do you actually follow the jokes? If you don't follow, smash subscribe anyway. Then I'll try to explain to you in the next videos. Anyway, that's all from me. Peace.
Apabila larut malam